one heart can never win. It takes two hearts just don't love.
So one of the things that you mentioned in your book, which I think is marvelous, is to look at the online dating in general, but online dating specifically, as a way actually just to get out there and meet new people. There are some interesting sites now that are all about, you actually lay out what kind of date you'd like, what you'd consider as a great first date. So taking that as a premise, for instance, you know, you can just go out and have fun. You can theoretically, you know, maybe it doesn't always turn into something romantic. Maybe you think the guy's kind of a joker, or you think the girl's, you know, a little too high-strung, but you're out there, you're having fun. Maybe you go to a party together. Maybe you just go see a movie that you never would have seen. Maybe you go to a bar you've never been to before, or somebody suggests an unusual cuisine, and there you go. You're learning something, you're getting out there. So it's a question of what your expectations are, and is it always end result oriented, or can you just enjoy the process of getting out and being social? And to me, that's a very attractive component that you mentioned in your book, yes, which I think is another way to kind of, what's the word, diffuse the tension around online dating.
Absolutely, I think it's, well, I love that idea, and I love conceptualizing the idea of dating and internet dating as just creating a vibrancy in one's own life. Right. We cannot be so goal-oriented about everything. In fact, the more you do, and the more fun you have, the way you look at it as an opportunity to connect socially. In fact, it makes you a more interesting person, so that when you actually are on a date, or you do find a date, wherever, you have things to talk about.
You can also work out some kinks, even, you know.
You're learning and you're
learning
growing,
moves.
and right, you're checking out, does the person match what I'm looking for? I like this, but not that. I'll let this go, or this person could be a friend. So I think that all these opportunities, speed dating, for instance, person can go to speed datings, you have a limited number of people you meet, and then afterwards you can, you know, hang out, chat to people, socialize, maybe make a new friend to go to places with. So you're also expanding your social horizons, and there's no stagnation happening in your life. And when you're a single person and you might feel lonely, it does take the edge off that acute loneliness. Yeah. So you're not alone. There's so many people out there looking, and there is no agenda. I really talk about that in the book. You need to know what your own agenda is, but you need to date in a way where you don't have the expectation that you're going to fall madly in love and it's all going to work out miraculously in one day. You need to be conscious of what you're looking for. But if you want to go out and try apple martinis in different restaurants, or you've been involved with someone and you're recently divorced and you want to play the field, you can do that, and there's no need to be inauthentic and dishonest. You say to the person, this is where I'm at right now, and it feels really good. And then at a later time, you might find somebody, you know, who, at any time, people appreciate the honesty.
Yes.
So I really do like that idea of just dating to be part of the world.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's great. I love it. So what do you find advantageous about online dating that, for instance, is not going to happen in the real world? Is there a way that, because you're putting so much out there, you're kind of weeding out, you know, maybe you meet somebody who think, you know, they're really dishy or something, but then you know nothing about them and you realize after 2-3 dates you guys are highly incompatible, whereas online you get a picture, you get a rundown, hopefully accurate. And so in a way that might help you weed out a lot of people that otherwise you might waste time with in the real world.
I think that's a very good point. You really, you know, I think initially one looks for, there has to be some like attraction, basically, to feel, I do like this person, they behave well, they have the kinds of social skills that you feel would be compatible with you, and simpatico in terms of personality. And then if you never know if someone's being authentic, but you know if you're being authentic. So if you give it 1 or 2 or 3 dates and you find that it really isn't for you, I think you need to look at it, this is what I did, this is how I grew, this is where I went. And it's fine, and all it does is make you, instead of being bereft and getting deeply, deeply attached so early, many people are deeply disappointed when on the first date they realize that this is not going to work. Let's say the person is just so rude to the waiter or waitress. That's a big red flag, that if they're rude to that person, what does it say about who they are, for instance? So that's not going to work for them. But they don't want to admit these things, and then they start getting involved with the wrong people. Right? Then you say, oh, dating doesn't work. Dating really can work, even if it's disappointing, even if you were hoping the person looked amazing. I also do recommend, and I think this is, I'm not sure how, I did talk about this in the book as well, that you do not get overly involved in creating an email buddy, spend texting too much before the date. You use the internet and the profile as an opportunity to set up an actual, it's not a virtual date, right? So getting sidelined or creating false intimacy really shouldn't, I don't agree with that, because you're going to be very, most people are very disappointed in the reality and the fantasy of who you think someone is. There's nothing there, you just have to give it due diligence like anything in life and get to know the actual person over time, over a period of time and different circumstances. The dates could vary, for instance, that's another thing in online dating. You know, the first date could be meeting for a coffee or a drink or dinner. Maybe you might want to pose what you were suggesting, you know, what about going to a museum or suggesting something else and you would like to do, and possibly the other. It shows that they're flexible, it shows that they're open to what you want to do, it shows if you have similar interests, right? Or you may do something that isn't in your comfort zone. If you're a sports lover, now suddenly you're going to games because they're a mad sports lover. Right?
And to see how they interact with what they're looking at. I mean, I feel like going to a museum is such a marvelous setting for a date, because maybe you're bored to the gills with this person, but at least you have some fabulous art to look at.
Absolutely.
And you can also, it's a great way to learn something about somebody. You know, you're staring at a Picasso, and maybe it's not your favorite Picasso, and you kind of say, you know what, I really didn't like his Cubist period, and they go, are you kidding? I hate it. I'm totally there with you. And suddenly, you know, you have something that's culturally relevant, that is a way of, hey, we bond on that thing.
I really like that. It's not all about you and getting to know someone.
Yeah, and all the specifics of your life.
All the specifics and everything that has gone awry. It really does focus onto an external subject. And as a way to build rapport and interest, especially initially. And so then that's sort of speaks to what I was saying before. The intimacy evolves in a natural way, in an organic way, in a dynamic way, and not forced. So I like that idea. And it also normalizes a date. You know, people go on a date and they get all dressed up and they're anxious and they drink too much to alleviate the anxiety, and they wonder why they know nothing about that person and whether they even like them. And they're not able to.
You know, it's just when I think about it, going on a date where suddenly you're confined to a table and sure you want a glass of wine because you're nervous, and then suddenly both of you have had 2 glasses of wine and you're maybe saying things you didn't want to say necessarily, or you know, I don't think you're necessarily presenting your best self under those conditions. Not that I have a problem, I love wine myself, but you know, to find a way to date, like you're saying, to start off with a coffee when you're really completely in your right mind and able to assess and talk rationally, I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Absolutely, and I think you can say, if you know you don't, it's not going to go anywhere, let's just say there isn't any attraction on a physical level. By the way, that's not superficial, that is part of life. You need to be attracted to the people that you're going to become close to. You're not going to look for someone you're not attracted to, thinking that that's going to work. So let's say you assume that you're just not, it's not going to work for reasons, but you can say to them, how are you finding this online dating? What's your, humanize it.
All right.
Right? By the end of the evening, you may shake hands, you may give each other a warm hug. You've not wasted your time. You're ahead of the game. You really need to stay with the process, and I do outline it in the book, The ABCs of Dating, A Guide to Love and Dating for the Open-Hearted. And I mean open-hearted, I don't mean open-hearted necessarily with an end goal of marriage.
Right.
Being open and going through the various stages of you know, the A phase, I talk about the anxiety and the fear of abandonment, and then getting to know people over a series of dates and time, leading to being in a relationship which everyone enjoys, a sort of middle phase of bonding and being able to be yourself and bringing in other people into your lives, into a commitment if that's what you choose. Not everyone has to go there.
One step at a time. That's all